But let's talk now to Nick Freeman, lawyer, road safety campaigner, of course, as well, a man who knows a thing or two about driving. We're going to talk about a great many things, including his 10 New Year resolutions for what you should do if you're getting ready to get in a car for the new year. Nick, a very good morning to you. Welcome back.
Morning, mate.
Thanks very much indeed. I mean, this will come as no surprise to you that London is the most congested city in the world for the second year in a row. It takes longer to get anywhere here than it's ever done before. And the other thing I want to mention to you, just, is the extremely high cost now of running an electric car.
Yeah, well, dealing with your first point, obviously with all these moves to try and take traffic off the main routes, what's happening is the smaller routes are becoming congested. And really, it's a free-for-all. People are just trying to find a route where you can move, and it's now increasingly difficult. At least before there was some certainty, and now sat-navs can't deal with it, human brain can't deal with it, and it's a real mess. So this should send a strong message to the people who are trying to regulate the traffic flow, saying, look, whatever we're doing, it's not working. Let's sit back. We're all pursuing a green agenda, but let's be sensible about it, and let's make it work. But London's always been congested, but to have it as bad as it is now, it just is a slap in the face for all the efforts and huge financial expenditure that's being wasted.
It's never been worse. And just on the subject of electric cars, rapid charging of electric cars, the charges have now risen by more than 50% in the last 8 months, according to the RAC. So for all of you people out there with the virtue signalling Teslas, I'm afraid it's not working. It's not going to be any cheaper for you. In fact, it's going to be more expensive.
To quote you, hit me with a feather. You know, at the moment that the government are trying to hold a price down, you wait till we move towards 2030 and there are fewer internal combustion engine cars on the road. And then, of course, there's this huge tax void, a fuel duty void. Who's going to fill that? Well, obviously, it's going to be filled by the people who are driving electric cars, and that's not factored in yet. So, we've got price of energy going up massively, but we haven't got the tax implications yet. And when they hit, boy, are we in for a really heavy deal.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's get to them. We've got
the other point is this. Sorry, Mike.
Go on.
People don't realise when they have electric cars, if they go away for a few days, the car's flat, so they need to charge it again, and no one's talking about that. So you're away for 2 or 3 days. Have a weekend away, you come back, your car's flat.
Yeah.
So you need to charge it all over again. So there's a lot of wastage of use here.
Absolutely right. It's definitely not the bonus that everybody thought it might be it doesn't save the planet either, but that's another story. Let's get on to your top 10 motoring tips and motoring resolutions. The first one being, don't overtake and then hog the lane you've moved into. Yeah,
well, look, we've got congested roads. People don't have manners on the road, and they don't know what the highway code says. Very briefly, you overtake, you move back into the near side, clearing the passage for other people. So the outside lanes, particularly on the motorway, but also on dual carriageways, are for overtaking. You don't sit there, you overtake, you move back. People so we have all the traffic on lanes 3 and 4, and literally nothing on lanes 1 and 2 on the motorway, and it's just ridiculous.
I was stuck behind a guy.
We don't have any...
I was stuck behind a guy on the M25 the other day who was hogging the outside lane. He was actually doing about 65 in the fast lane. There was no other traffic to his left, but for some reason, he just remained in that lane. I can't imagine why.
And it presents a huge challenge to the driver, because you've got to sit and wait, not be aggressive, don't tailgate him, keep your distance, flash him, maybe indicate him. If he's not going to move over, you then need to make a decision, am I going to undertake or not? And if you do, on the face of it, you're committing an offence.
Yes, and that is a problem. If you've had a heavy night on the tiles, don't assume you'll be below the limit in the morning.
Yeah, my advice is, if you've been drinking heavily the night before, don't drive the next day. Alcohol stays in your system for a long time. And the number of clients we have who, sobriety has nothing to do with it. It's just the alcohol that stays in your system. And people think, I'm sober, I feel fine, I feel great. I'm wash my mouth out with, something to stop me smelling of alcohol. If the police breathalyze you and you're over, it doesn't help you to say, sorry, it's from the night before. You're over and that's it. And people underestimate how long alcohol stays in your body.
Yes. Now, the next one is a bugbear of mine. Indicate. Even if there doesn't seem to be anybody around. And the reason I say it's a bugbear of mine is roundabouts. People drive me insane when you're seeing them coming towards you and you're giving way to them, but you don't know which way they're going because they haven't bothered to indicate.
You need to be clairvoyant, don't you? We're very lazy in this country, and that's why, in my view, we need to be taking the highway code test or refreshing ourselves every 10 years. People are lazy, they're ignorant. It's up there with lane hogging. People just don't indicate, and of course that causes uncertainty, it causes delay, and it causes congestion. So why don't drivers just indicate when they're going to move away from the roundabout. And the other point is, as you approach a give way sign, look as you approach it. You don't need to come to a stop. Look to your right if the traffic's coming from your right, and then you just keep moving. And it saves the environment, and it helps us move more smoothly, doesn't it?
I had another bad one the other day, merging onto an A road, a dual carriageway, and the guy in front of me, and as we came around a bend together, he was in front of me, came to a complete stop instead of just merging, and I was like, you know, fortunately I was paying attention, or else he would have been a very nasty crash up the back end. OK, number 5. This is a good one. If you're going to pull over and make a phone call, take the keys out of the ignition.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of confusion with law. People about using mobile phones. Briefly, my advice is don't use your phone at all in the car, because the level of distraction, whether you're handheld or hands-free, is the same as drink driving, 4 times more likely to have an accident. But if you are going to use it hands-free, or you want to say, pull over, I'm going to be on a long call, I don't want the distraction, I'm going to pull over. If your keys are in the ignition, you're still driving, you're still committing the offence, you're looking at 6 points. So take your keys right out of the ignition, put them in your pocket, so it's much harder for the police or the authorities to show that you are driving.
What if you have a car that doesn't have a key that goes in the ignition?
That's a very good point. Just turn the engine off. You know, you have a stop-start button, turn it off, and make sure it remains off during the course of the call. That's what you need to do. And I also think people need to be aware that when you're using your phone hands-free, that's fine, provided you're not involved in an incident. But any form of incident, that legal use morphs into illegal use, and that will be a serious aggravating feature. And people just don't understand that.
Right, and the police have the ability, don't they, to check whether you were on the phone?
Absolutely, yeah. They'll ask for your phone, and under certain circumstances they can seize it.
Next one, still phone related. Don't physically touch the phone when you're driving.
We've just touched that. Leave it alone. Have note that, you know, it doesn't need to be an interactive communication. It's any form of use now. The law changed in, I think, April of last year, in 2022. So just don't have any contact with your phone. But as I say, don't make that call when you're in the car. OK. Let's rush through the next 5. Give cyclists more room than you think is necessary. Change in highway code. At least 1.5 metres more. Give them as much as you can. However aggravated it is, you do not want to hit a cyclist. Just give them a massive amount of room. Be patient, wait, and overtake, even if you think what they're doing is outrageous. If you have got a camera and you feel that they're committing offences, you can record it. But again, who's cycling, you don't know. Yeah. Just look after your own situation and theirs. Give them massive space, a minimum of 1.5 metres. And remember, if they are cycling and you're on a double line, there's a double line down the centre of the road, you cannot overtake, even if it's clear. OK. Stick to the speed limit and don't rely on the latitude of the 10% plus 1 rule. Yeah. Well, a lot of people think it used to be 10% plus 2. It's now 10% plus 1. That's the Association of Chief Police Officers, but that's a guideline. My advice is, you know, if you're going to increase the speed over the limit, and the limits are often too slow, just do it by a fraction. Don't trust the 10% plus 1, because you know, it's discretionary and certain police officers might prosecute you for it. Yes, and also don't go too slowly either. Well, you know, that in my view is almost more serious. And you get people driving at 30 miles an hour and a 60 limit. They're driving without reasonable consideration for other road users. They don't think they are. They think they're driving safely. They're not. And it's just a great shame that there aren't more police on the road so that these people can be prosecuted. Of course, if you come across someone and you do have a camera, you do have a registration plate on their car, report it, because if these people start to be prosecuted, it will make the media, and people will then think, actually, I need to keep up with the traffic flow. Right. Final 2, don't tailgate or get too close to the car in front. Well, look, to try and preserve road safety, give yourself at least 2 seconds distance. The worst thing, if you hit a car from behind, prima facie, it's your fault, and you've got to assume, you know, that car might do an emergency stop, and you will be amazed, particularly in inclement conditions, how long it takes for your car to come to a halt if they slam their brakes on. So just give it plenty of room. It's not worth it. You're not going to get there any more quickly. Indeed. And finally, keep a good space away from meandering vehicles. This is a good one. I do this, actually. Well, we all see it, don't we? We see it particularly with lorries. You know, you see vehicles and they're moving around in the lane. Just give them space, because they're obviously committing an offence. They're obviously distracted, probably sat nav, probably phone, having a sandwich, having a drink. Give them space. so that you do not have to come into contact with them if they're unaware of your presence there. It's preserving your own safety. So these things are all designed just to try and make the roads a little bit safer for 2023.
Excellent stuff. Well, let's hope that when we do talk about the roads in 2023, we're not having to talk about bad things, and maybe we'll be talking about improvements. Who can say? Nick, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Nick Freeman, lawyer and road safety campaigner, with some very good advice, actually. I know some of it might seem a bit obvious, but it is good advice because he knows the law and he knows what you can and cannot do. And certainly the things that you've just heard there are things that you should do at the very least.